In April 1934, what remained of the infamous Barrow Gang was on the brink of collapse. Bunny Parker, Clyde Barrow, and their young protege, Henry Methvin, were fugitives in the truest sense, relentlessly hunted across the American Southwest. They were exhausted, wounded, and running out of options. Their only hope for a moment's peace lay with the Methvin family in rural Louisiana. Henry's father, Ivan Methvin, offered them a place to hide out on his property near It was a desperate move, but it was their only move. They arrived at the Methvin farm, a secluded, ramshackle place that felt a world away from the screeching tires and blazing guns of their recent past. For a few days, a fragile sense of normalcy settled over them. They ate home-cooked meals, slept in actual beds, and helped with chores around the farm. Clyde, ever the mechanic, spent hours tinkering with his prized Ford V8, the very engine of their criminal enterprise. Bonnie, her leg still badly burned from a previous car crash, found solace in the quiet moments, often sitting alone, lost in thought. Henry Methvin, back on his home turf, seemed to relax, falling back into the familiar rhythms of country life. But this was no idyllic retreat. The calm was just a thin veil stretched over a pit of boiling tension. The group dynamics had been fraying for months. Clyde, usually cool and in command, was becoming increasingly paranoid and short-tempered. The constant running, the close calls with the law, and the responsibility for Bonnie's well-being were grinding him down. He was suspicious of everyone, including his own partner, Henry. He saw Henry as inexperienced and unreliable, a weak link who had already made several costly mistakes. Henry, for his part, was caught in an impossible position. He was loyal to Clyde, who had broken him out of prison, but he was also terrified. He had seen firsthand the brutal reality of their life on the run. He'd been present at the Grapevine slaying, where 2 highway patrolmen were killed, an event that had turned public opinion squarely against them and intensified the manhunt to a fever pitch. Now, back home, he was under immense pressure from his own family. His father, Ivan, saw the danger his son was in and was desperate to find a way out for him. A way that didn't end in a hail of bullets. Bonnie was the quiet center of this storm. Her physical pain was constant, a fiery reminder of their botched escape from a car wreck months earlier. But her emotional turmoil was even greater. She was a poet at heart, and she poured her fears and premonitions into her writing. During their stay at the Methvin farm, she worked on a poem she titled The Story of Bonnie and Clyde. It was a surprisingly candid and self-aware piece of work, acknowledging their crimes but also painting a romanticized picture of their love and loyalty. But beneath the romance, a dark premonition was taking shape. She added new verses to the poem, verses that spoke of betrayal and their inevitable, violent end. One line was particularly chilling: "It's death for Bonnie and Clyde." It was as if she could feel the net closing in, as if she knew their time was measured in days, not weeks. She even gave a copy of the poem to her mother during a secret, tearful meeting. A final goodbye disguised as a piece of writing. The atmosphere on the farm grew heavier with each passing day. The locals in nearby towns like Gippsland and Arcadia were acutely aware of who was hiding in their midst. Whispers traveled fast. People who had once known the Methvins now avoided them. The fear was palpable. Helping the Barogang, or even being associated with them, was a death sentence. No one would sell them food. No one would offer them aid. They were completely isolated, trapped on that farm by a wall of fear and silence. This isolation was exactly what the Lamin were counting on. Leading the charge was the legendary Texas Ranger, Frank Hammer. Hammer was a different breed of Lumampesha, methodical and utterly relentless. He had been tracking Bonnie and Clyde for months, studying their habits, their roots, and their psychology. He understood that they were creatures of habit, often circling back to areas and people they knew. He knew they were connected to the Methvin family. Hammer wasn't just chasing them, he was setting a trap. He had been putting immense pressure on the Methvin family. He and his posse let Ivan Methvin know, in no uncertain terms, that his son Henry was facing the electric chair for his role in the Grapevine murders. But they offered a deal. If Ivan could help them capture Bonnie and Clyde, they would see to it that Henry received a full pardon. It was a devil's bargain. Betray his son's accomplices to save his son's life. For Ivan Methvin, it was an agonizing choice. But seeing the inevitable, bloody end that awaited his son if he stayed with Clyde, he made his decision. He agreed to cooperate. Ivan became Hammer's inside man. He fed the low man crucial information that Bonnie and Clyde were indeed at his farm, and that they were planning to leave soon. He told Hammer about their daily routines, their planned movements. The final piece of the puzzle fell into place. Ivan told Hammer that he would make sure Clyde and Bonnie would be driving alone down a specific rural road near Sales, Louisiana, at a specific time. He would stage a distraction, leaving his truck by the side of the road with a tire removed, forcing Clyde, who would never pass up a chance to help a friend in need, to stop. This was the moment Hammer had been waiting for. Based on this intelligence, Hammer and his five-man posse selected the ambush spot. It was a secluded stretch of Highway 154, flanked by a thick curtain of trees and a high earthen bank. It offered perfect cover. They spent the night of May 22nd waiting, their weapons ready, their nerves on edge. They knew this was their one and only shot. Early the next morning, on May 23rd, 1934, Clyde's stolen Ford V8 appeared, just as Ivan Methvin had promised. Clyde was driving, Bonnie beside him. They saw Ivan's truck parked on the shoulder and slowed down. In that instant, the quiet morning erupted in a deafening roar of gunfire. The posse unleashed a relentless barrage from their automatic rifles, shotguns, and pistols. Over 150 rounds tore through the car in a matter of seconds. There was no call to surrender, no warning shot. The ambush was swift, brutal, and final. The car, riddled with holes, rolled slowly into a ditch. Inside, Bonnie and Clyde were killed instantly. The last safe house had been a trap. Bonnie's poetic premonition of betrayal had come true. Their violent, spectacular crime spree was over, not in a blaze of glory, but in a calculated, merciless execution on a lonely Louisiana road. The story of Bonnie and Clyde had reached its bloody conclusion. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, be sure to subscribe for more deep dives into history's most fascinating events.